Not so long ago, when our culture thirsted for moral leadership, it turned to elected leaders, clergy, and captains of industry. Then came a seismic cultural shift. Today, that moral authority is likelier to radiate from a new generation of actors, singers, and celebrity athletes. What happens when they leverage their fame to bring attention to social needs? In a moment, an insider from Bono's One campaign talks about using celebrity to better the world. Then Canadian icon Loreena McKennitt on a 30-year journey through our changing view of celebrity and the spiritual side that inspires her. This is Context, a look at life beyond the headlines.
Our first guest helped co-found the One campaign alongside Bono, the U2 singer-songwriter and one of the world's best-known celebrities. Tom Hart leads the North American arm of the One initiative, and One's mission to mobilize people worldwide to fight extreme poverty and eliminate preventable diseases that kill millions each year. Before we meet Tom, take a look at this.
30 years ago, two young rock stars set out to challenge the world.
I turn on the news and I just see those things going past and I don't know what to do. And Bob Geldof, he says, I don't know what to do, but I'm going to do something. Wow, you know, I like that.
Well, Tom Hart joins us today from New York City. Tom, welcome.
Thanks, Lorna. Great to be with you.
Well, that clip from Why Poverty shows the Bono of yesterday and the Bono of today. How did this adventure with One begin for you, Tom?
Well, it began for me when I was in college and I got really interested in public policy, but I wanted to come to Washington. I packed my Volkswagen and moved to DC with no place to live and no job. But it probably even began before then. I grew up, my father's an Episcopal clergy person, and I grew up in the church. And I always knew I wanted to do something that would help people. And that combination of interest in helping and politics in Washington sort of collided in the most amazing job I could imagine, which was working with people like Bob Geldof and Bono, like you just saw, on helping policies fight extreme poverty and preventable disease. And so I've sort of taken all of that and worked with him for about 10 years now, and we've had amazing fun and amazing progress.
Okay, like did you just bump into him in the halls in Washington one day, or what happened? What was the glue?
At the time, we were working on a project called Jubilee 2000, actually a biblically based project to try to cancel the debts of the poorest countries. Many countries in sub-Saharan Africa were paying more in servicing decades-old debts to rich countries than they were spending in health and education in their own countries. And so Bono was the celebrity spokesperson for this, mostly in Europe. But when it came time to work with the American government, I was actually working at the Episcopal Church at the time, representing them. He called me up and we got to know each other, and we talked about who in the Congress we ought to go talk to and what arguments were working and what wasn't. And a friendship and a professional collaboration began, and we started the One campaign about 10 years ago to keep that collaboration going.
Okay, so you were well familiar with working on a justice issue prior to celebrity. What difference does it make when a celebrity puts their credential behind a cause like what happened with your Jubilee issue?
Well, when a celebrity like Bono, who is, I have to say, perhaps almost unique in the way that he does his activism, it makes an incredible difference. I've been around a lot of celebrities in Washington when I've worked in the government, and sometimes they're very effective and sometimes they aren't. Bono studies hard. He rolls up his sleeves. He comes back. He'll have a meeting with you, and then 6 months later he'll come back to see if you did what you said you were going to do, and he reports back on the progress that's happening on the ground in Africa. He looks at his celebrity like a currency, and he says, look, it's not currency that I earned particularly, but I want to use it. I want to spend it in this way to help the people who don't have representatives in Washington.
And you do this in a very faith and non-faith world, like you don't have to be a certain kind of believer to cross the line. But it is Bono's Christian convictions that is fueling a lot of this. Tell us about that.
Well, he is very much comes from a faith perspective. That is something that is truly motivating him and his continued work and dedication to this. His own private work and also his public advocacy. He and I both, realized that, it doesn't take long in the Bible until you bump into the poor and some mandate to help care for the least of these. And that's, I think we both discovered that public policy is one way to express that. Look, Jesus didn't ask us to go and lobby the Congress or the Parliament to get things done, but it is one way. Governments have a big role to play in helping the poorest people around the world, and that's how we're trying to use our motivation that really does come from our faith to help those who are in need.
But when it hits culture now, seems that, from my perspective anyway, that people are looking for celebrities for moral leadership on these issues. They're not looking any longer to politicians. They're certainly not looking to clergy. What's your view of that we've shifted to celebrity is the new moral leader?
Well, I'm not sure Bono would be up for being a moral leader on this. That's a responsibility I'm not sure he signed up for, but I understand what you're saying. And celebrity have the ability to get attention. And whether it's right or wrong, he's chosen to use his celebrity to get attention on the plight of those who have virtually nothing. And I deeply respect that, and I know he's earned a great deal of respect around the world for what he's done. So, I think it really does, these issues, these public policy issues, fighting HIV/AIDS, getting kids in school, promoting agriculture to feed communities in Africa, it does take getting attention. It also takes government leadership. It also takes churches. It takes individuals to get involved and use their voices. So while people may be looking for moral leadership or attention from celebrity, the solutions really have to involve everybody.
An astonishing thing to me about One is you do not fundraise from the general public. You've got private connections to celebrity wealth, and you use that. And we're going to be talking with your activist in Canada, Sarah Stone, later in a moment. But first, I want you to take a question from a gal in our studio audience.
Hi there. You've mentioned that celebrities can use their status to promote compassion for the needy, but also how can celebrities, or do you see examples of celebrities using their influence to promote grace and renewal for those who need the restoration in their lives?
I do. I see that a lot. I see it in Bono particularly. He's the one that I work obviously most closely with. And I do think it takes grace. I think it takes some humility, which sometimes can be a challenge for a celebrity. And I think it is, taking, as I said before, that currency of celebrity and using it for something beyond yourself. And I think that it's a real witness to people being able to take the blessings that they have and share them with others.
All right, Tom, and to our audience, thank you. Your organization, One, has also brought together 19 of the biggest musicians in Africa, and we'll hear their music just a little bit later in the show. But just tell us what your hope is that this kind of celebrity movement now in Africa is going to send to African youth and then to ourselves.
Well, the video that you're going to see, I think, is a wonderful testament to the evolution that has happened in these issues for 20 years. That first clip you saw of Bono and Bob Geldof was about famine relief. Western rock stars raising money for charity for famine relief in Africa. The video you're about to see is about African celebrities who are completely wired in and youth pop culture in Africa, raising awareness and advocacy around agriculture, long-term solutions so that that continent can feed itself. It's a wonderful progression, and we're very, very proud to be involved and support it.
Tom Hart, North American Executive Director for the One campaign, thank you very much.
Thanks, Lorna. I appreciate it.
Well, and speaking of rock stars, our own Sheldon Neil is here to bring you right into the conversation. Sheldon.
Thank you so much, Lorna. So much humility, Lorna. Thank you so much. Our question for you at home is this. Do you think it's right that celebrities should leverage their fame in the name of a social cause? Or do you think it's an abuse of their A-list status to push their social ideas on others? As you can see, there are lots of ways to connect with us, and please know we read and listen to every response. Can't wait to read it.
All right, up next, multi-million-dollar selling recording artist Loreena McKennitt. But first, on the culture of celebrity, take a look at this twist on the topic.
I I'm Tanya Collins, and it's been a busy week. Coming up on Gossip Today, Jeff.
Working 15-hour days just to feed her kids. Why this single mom can't make ends meet.
Not enough money for secondhand shoes. Sarah Campbell cuts her shopping trip short.
Plus, an exclusive look inside of Nancy Hill's apartment. GT has a scoop.
And look who we found. Marlene Jones talks about her family's struggles with money.
All this and more coming up next.
What if we cared about those living in poverty as much as we care about celebrities? Help struggling single mothers at woodgreen.org.
Our next guest has sold over 14 million albums. Her music is loved around the world. And this year, she is celebrating 30 years of inspired music making with the release of the album, The Journey So Far. It's our great pleasure to welcome Loreena McKennitt to Context.
How are you? Good. So good to have you. Thank you.
Wow, Loreena, 30 years ago, you were a kid busking on Toronto streets. Do you remember that?
I remember it well.
You know, who would have thought this would be 30 years later?
It's extraordinary, particularly, I think, I never dreamed about being a singer. I always wanted to be a veterinarian.
Yes, you have Manitoba roots.
I do.
Yeah, Morden, Manitoba.
Yes.
Yeah.
Our neighborhood.
Well, we were sharing offset. My first kiss with my husband was in Morden, Manitoba.
Well.
And you knew Winkler Bible School where we met.
Yes.
But you didn't expect to become a world stage artist.
No.
It was never in your dream basket.
No, never. And even to this day, I think I'm really not made for this career path from the standpoint that I don't have a large appetite to be in public. And but it's the music that drove me.
So you're a great woman to address this question of what have we done with the word celebrity?
Well, my own particular view is that the word celebrity has become a ghetto, actually, for people who've become well known. You know, there are a lot of people such as myself who set out into their career path, often in the arts or sports and various fields, that never aspired to be famous, but they loved what they did. You know, they loved to write, or they loved to skate, or they loved the music. And I think over the years, what has happened, there's been a commodification of those individuals.
And you actually have a landmark court case that you fought in Britain.
Yes.
To say, I want to be an individual. I don't want to be commodity.
Yes, it was a privacy
case,
and I think that there were various times through that whole process, and it came out very favorably for me, and was sort of stamped at the House of Lords, but it was that. In the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights, or the European Convention on Human Rights, and there are articles there that speak to the right of privacy, and yet I don't recall it saying everybody on the planet has the right to privacy except the rich and famous or the celebrities, you know?
Loreena, you actually think the question is not, is celebrity moral leader? It's role model. There's something that we should wrestle with on role model. What do you mean?
Well, I feel that, you know, each individual, no matter what their career path is, has an opportunity to be a role model. And I think of one person he was the receptionist at Warner Music Canada, and he was so courteous and so considerate and so generous. And I think, wow, you know, he's setting the bar high. He's being very hospitable to people far beyond the call of duty. And I think that there's no question people who become well known by what they do have another opportunity to sometimes leverage their notoriety. But at the same time, I think that needs to be handled extremely carefully, because there are a lot of people, and media included, who disparage people who've become well known as singers, but then all of a sudden find themselves to be spokesperson for some other field for which they know very little of.
Okay, you have performed for the Queen. You were made an honorary colonel in the Royal Canadian Air Force. You're a member of the Order of Canada, the Order of Manitoba. So how do you think this gives you a platform?
Well, I think when I was given these orders, one was to do with setting up a water safety fund.
Out of a personal tragedy you suffered.
Yes. And I raised between $3 and $4 million.
Good for you. Wow.
But also did a lot of due diligence in terms of studying water safety. We worked with the Life Saving Society, the Coast Guard, many different reputable organizations. And even now, I feel very cautious about how far I would go out to speak on behalf of something. I feel that the danger of people who become very well known is it's just too easy to be shot down. I think there are other less public ways of making a difference.
Your music does speak spiritually to me. Tell me where you draw your spiritual inspiration from.
I have a great respect and reverence for the mysteries of this world and the reverence that comes with that. And God, however people define God. And when I look for my own spiritual inspiration, I often look to the natural world. Circumstances where there's peace and quiet, so I can reflect deeply on things.
What do you think we're missing as this world hypes up on the celebrity sound, on our, the media venues are hitting us from all over, and yet when I listen to your music, you take me to a very still, quiet place. Are you worried that we're maybe not doing that enough?
I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned that Silicon Valley has us all on a very quick march. And I think that we're losing our humanity because we're trying to live beyond it through very artificial means.
Wow.
And I think that we are losing, one of the most precious things is a state of reflection and reverence through which, the whole essence of God can shine through us.
Wow. Well, you have been nice enough to leave us for our Facebook and our Twitter back and forth a draw from the journey so far. Loreena, there is a question in the studio audience for you.
Hi there. You mentioned humanity and the impact that technology in our world today influences our ability to connect with the larger world and humanity. Is there anything about the music genre that you perform and that you're drawn to that allows us to tap into our connection to humanity at large, or that would inspire us?
Well, I don't know exactly how to respond to that. I can tell you that for me, a lot of my process is that I find a theme, or I might find script like St. John of the Cross, and study the circumstance surrounding it, but also live in those words. I mean, words are kind of a convenient mechanism to get into a much deeper experience, and that I lose myself in those words, and I try to lose myself in the intent of the author. And where my skill or my talent becomes more like a vehicle through which something happens. And I often say that, I like to take ownership of what I do, but I can't. I feel there's something, and I think many creative people would speak in terms like this, that something flows through them.
All right. Loreena McKennitt, singer, songwriter, Celtic and world artist. Thank you. You're a Canadian treasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
For bringing the journey so far into our exchange with you at home. You can enter our Facebook and tell us what you thought of Loreena's interview, and we'll enter you into a draw for her new album, The Journey So Far. You can also do that at our homepage as well. But Loreena, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And now, Sheldon, let's get our viewers involved.
Thank you so much, Lorna. And we've got just a question for you at home. We wonder, which celebrity has influenced you through their social activism? Thousands of actors, writers, musicians, and performers have worked for countless causes. We want to know which have resonated with you. Send us a note or give us a call through one of the media you see on the screen, and be sure we read and hear and value every response. Get to it.
All right, coming up, a sneak peek at the latest video from Bono's One campaign.
Great.
Well, that's the latest video from the One campaign, bringing the biggest African stars together to promote investment in agriculture. And our next guest, Sarah Stone, works at the grassroots level of One in Canada, a campaign co-founded by rock star and global philanthropist Bono. Sarah has lobbied on Parliament Hill and works as a maternal health nurse. Please welcome to Context, Sarah Stone. Hi, Sarah. Great to have you here. What a great evolution that video is. Tell us how you got involved.
Well, I've been a longtime U2 fan since I was very young, and the social justice message and the spirituality and the lyrics really spoke to me. In addition to that, I've always been very interested in global issues. So my grandmother likes to tell stories of me, standing in front of the television, watching World Vision commercials of, and in tears about, children living in poverty. So it's something that's really been part of my life. But it wasn't until I joined One that I realized the value of my own voice, that my voice really could make a difference.
So you've been very strong on this, that it may be celebrities who open up some things in the developing world and open up a consciousness. But what do you mean that it takes our voice? It takes the ordinary person's voice.
Yeah, well, I think Tom Hart mentioned that, Bono sees his celebrity as currency. So he has said, while the spotlight is on him, he is going to shine it on something that is really important and is an urgent matter. And so I think that, he brings the awareness, and other celebrities bring awareness to the causes, but then it's regular people like me and others. Some of my colleagues are in the audience today who actually have the power to move the needle, to contact their government representatives.
And you guys just moved the needle in Canada. Tell us about holding the government to a challenge for its foreign aid budget.
Yeah, so we ran a campaign at the beginning of the year with some of our partners, Engineers Without Borders Canada and others, basically asking Canadians to sign a petition, asking Prime Minister Harper not to make any cuts to the foreign assistance budget. So we had 21,000 signatures plus, I think, at last count. And we actually delivered that petition to Parliament Hill, to the Parliamentary Secretary, to the Minister of International Cooperation.
And our budget wasn't cut on foreign assistance. And the neat thing is you're not fundraising, because One is funded by celebrity cash, but, or I shouldn't say cash wealth. And all you want is us to really say these issues of the poorest of the poor matter.
Definitely the education and awareness piece is really important as well, just to kind of bring people up to speed on the issues if they're not familiar with the issues. And then we try to move our members into action. So to really, hold letter writing parties, write letters to the editor.
And everybody are your members. It could be
right.
anybody. Okay, there's a quote by Bono that stopped me in my tracks when I first heard it. He wrote, "I search the scriptures to what end? I check with my emotional life with music, my intellectual life with writing, but religion is where I soul search." How have you been inspired by Bono's faith?
It definitely does inspire me. I share a similar faith in Christ, and that definitely motivates me in my advocacy work as well.
What about the story of Jesus motivates you? What have you discovered?
Well, I just think that Jesus was one of the greatest models of loving your neighbor. And, your neighbor these days, with the advent of social media and that kind of thing, is someone who's living thousands of miles away. So you really can no longer say, I didn't know, or I don't know what the issues are, because we have access to instant information. So your neighbor literally could be someone living thousands of miles away.
Wow. Okay, Sarah Stone, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you for having
and thank
me.
you for doing what One does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, when we return, I'll tell you why I've taken a close look at Bono. Is he worth the celebrity cred he carries? That's next. We started our look into celebrity as moral leader today because images inundate us about people who are fascinating to watch. It got Context asking, what kind of celebrity culture do we need? The National Journal nailed it when it recently declared, more than any single figure, Bono's responsible for the tilt of celebrity activism towards poverty in the developing world. In researching the old Bono tapes, it seems to me he's been the kind of man who at first just showed up. He followed his gut nudge to care. What if we did the same? every day. No need for stadiums of adoring fans. Just daily, do the right thing for someone who is having a worse day than ourselves. Jesus told a story about the Good Samaritan. Jesus could have picked any example of how to love one's neighbor, but the story unfolds in a way that loving God and loving the vulnerable are linked. And that's the kind of celebrity culture we need, a culture to celebrate loving God and loving the vulnerable. So for all of us, I'm Loreena McKennitt. Thanks for watching. And we've got a great Facebook grab bag this week from our celebrity Loreena McKennitt and her journey thus far, and as well as some treats from the people at One and Bono's organization. So send us your feedback on today's show. Call the viewer feedback line or send a message via email, Facebook, or Twitter. We'll make a couple draws, and some of you at home will be awarded some of the neat treats the celebrities left us today. So join us next week as we explore life beyond the headlines.